area looks absolutely rejuvenated. They're a proper threat.
Well, even when they decided to sort of rest Briley late on in the game, and
Yeah,
Atkin went to fullback, and he still made a break and set up a try. Sneed scored 2 tries, showed off a bit of his running game in this game as well, and like I said before, I thought Ackers was just as brilliant as Croft and Sneed were.
yeah. They're playing very, very well. Whoever has to play them in the quarterfinal and or the semi-final has got their hands full. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Get along to watch your team, Salford, because they're a hell of a side this side.
Yep. Castleford, had a couple of moments in the first half, but really, we're talking apart. The main thing that came out for Cast, to be honest, was another injury, and another injury to the halfbacks. You were talking about your outside backs. You can make do a bit with outside backs, can't you? Wigan had KPP and Willie Isa in ours the other night at 2 back rowers. You've talked about Sione Matalian and stuff. You can make do. What you can't make do with is if all your halfback options are out. Danny Richardson picked up what looks like a season-ending knee injury, so even if they did win next week against Leeds, he wouldn't make the playoffs. It sounds like it was a rough one as well. It was an unlucky one, chasing a ball, putting in an effort and kind of getting rolled up upon in the kind of melee, trying to prevent a try. So that's really unfortunate. That to me, it was as big as anything for Castleford in this game. And maybe when that happened, that kind of led to them dropping their heads and the score blowing out. Maybe because you go through the list. Jake Truman quietly was having a really good season in what up to the midway point of the season was a pretty average or less Cast side. Jake Truman was standing out with his performances, and then he got injured, but the whole side as a team seemed to pick up around people like Richardson and O'Brien. Now both of those are out injured. You're left with McShane and whoever. Levels is out injured as well. Greg Eden has done his best filling in the halves, but he's not going to be able to control a game in the halves. So they've won. One thing about Castleford though is they have won games with no halfbacks more than any team that I can think of in the last 10 years.
That's a really good point. I think it's going to be difficult, isn't it? We'll get on to our predictions later on in the...
Well, they'll also be missing Liam Watts, David. I don't know if you've seen he got a grade B dangerous contact charge, too much penalty notice. I don't know if this was for the late hit that he got the sin bin for.
Yeah, must be. I'd have thought anyway.
It seemed a fair shout to me, that, if it is.
It did look a fair shout to me as well. So you've got to think. Surely you've got to think this is probably a step too far for them to turn over Leeds next week, and even if they don't, they're going to find it very difficult in the playoffs with all those all those injuries and weaknesses in the team.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate position, I think, for them. One thing about Salford, it's very clear on paper that their pack is not that great. Normally, you see kind of packs elevate the performance of the players behind them by setting a platform. It's almost like the backs and the spine are playing so creatively that it's making the defences account so much for those players that the props are being able to play off the back of what the halfbacks are doing.
Yeah, there were times. I agree with that, Mark. There were times under Sean Wayne I thought, well, Wigan's pack were underpowered, but the back line was so good that certainly underpowered in the front row. You had very good second rowers.
And I think that's what we're talking about the same here. Is the middles. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. There were times under Sean Wayne I thought Wigan's backline elevated the pack, and I think we're seeing something like that for Salford now, where the backline's so good they're able to overcome the fact that they haven't got absolutely top class middles.
And then the spaces that are opening up make people like Jack Ummandroid look like a player that we never anticipated he could be, which is a Super League starting player. He did get a grade A dangerous contact charge, so no penalty notice for him on that. But he also got another try where he steamed through a hole and turned Jake Mamo inside out. So, crazy stuff.
They're going to be very entertaining. Let's put it this way. Obviously, Saints and Wigan won't be playing in the first week of the playoffs. I'm going to watch whoever Salford are playing.
Well, at the moment, it looks like they'll have an away draw. So you best be hoping that it doesn't stay as the standards are, in which case they'll be away at Catalans.
Yeah, all right. Let me qualify what I just said.
Yeah. Cause...
Much as though I love going to Catalan, I don't like Salford so much that I'm going to get on a plane. So I'm assuming they're going to be playing Huddersfield.
Well, Catalans have tied up a home playoff with the next match we're going to talk about, a home win over Leeds Rhinos, making up for the defeat they had to Leeds a few weeks ago in Golden Point extra time. This was a game where Leeds didn't send their best team, though, you could argue. But it was 28 points to 6 to Catalans at half-time. Game pretty much won. That last 20 minutes of the first half in particular, they took over the game when Dudson and Cassiano came off the bench. They ended up winning 32 points to 18, so Leeds did threaten in the second half of a revival and a comeback like we saw the other week, but it wasn't materialised. 9,802 was the crowd figure I've seen for this one. That's one of their better crowds of the year, I think, and Robert Hicks was the referee. The team stats have a comfortable Catalans win. They made over 400 metres, made it a better average gain, 2 more breaks, but more errors and more penalties from them did almost give Leeds away back into things. Individually, Tom Davies with a try assist, 165 metres. Sam Cassiano in his not his farewell home appearance now for Catalans because of the playoff game they'll get, but 8 tackles, 146 metres and 3 successful offloads. Joe Chan, another try for him, 132 metres. It was a lucky try, but no one will have been feeling bad when Richie Myler spilled a ball in his own in goal, I don't think. Artur Morg, 2 try assists and 123 metres. Then Mikulecki with 5 tackles, 122 metres. His phenomenal season continues. Tom Briscoe, resurgent in his 2 appearances back in the side, 101 metres for him. Reece Martin, some people say Leeds' his most consistent player this year, 100 metres. I'd argue Cam Smith's been better, but I've not watched as many Leeds games as some other observers have, so I'll take their word for it. Did you watch this one?
I certainly watched the highlights of that. No, actually, I watched most of the game on the TV, and then I picked up the highlights again later and watch the end of it. I thought it was a decent game. The feeling I've got is Catalan are starting to get some players back. They're starting to look good. I mean, obviously, Fuad Yaha is scoring tries for fun.
100 tries for the Catalans now, so the first player to reach that mark for that club. So that's a fantastic record for him, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good go-to wing, isn't it, for them to consistently get points on. But most of all, I was impressed by Morg, I thought, in this game. I mean, they dropped what's his name for the game after his stupidity getting himself sin-binned in the last game. What did they call it? Drinkwater. And
Tompkins was never fit for that game on Thursday night, so they've obviously...
just rested him. But I thought Morg stepped into the breach really well. Notwithstanding the fact that Leeds weren't at full strength, I thought Morg played really well. I really like him as a player, and I thought he had a super game in this game. So I get the feeling, if you thinking of that next group down, Mark, below Saints and Wigan, you look at Huddersfield and Leeds and Salford and Catalan. I mean, of all of those, I wish they'd reintroduced that rule where you could pick who you got to play in the semi-final.
Club call.
The teams weren't most likely to play a sort of Catalan or Salford, and I don't fancy either of those, to be quite honest. They're both starting to look like decent playoff bets to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talked about him getting players back. McIlaurin was back from his ban, and he didn't get another ban. Dean Vare got a ban. Grade B shoulder charge, 1 match penalty notice. I was surprised he wasn't sin-binned during the game when he flew out. He didn't get sin-binned for it, did he? Where he flew off the centres and put in a late hit on the Leeds ball player. But yeah, McIlaurin's back from that ban. Sam Tompkins, I guess, save until the playoff game now.
Yeah.
Cassiano and Dudson for me are the big two, because honestly I don't think this Catalan side are going to reach Old Trafford without Julian Busquets as well in that pack. I think that they've really gone off the rails since he's been out, and Cassiano had a bit of a long ban as well, didn't he? And Dudson's been in and out with niggles and stuff as well in the last and bans in the last 2 months ever since Busquets went down, and I really think that's had a huge impact on this team being able to push for the top two and left them where they are in fighting for third and fourth. But at least with two of those three big middlemen, Seguier is got better. Is not good enough, I don't think, yet, but he's got better. They do look better. Joe Chan has now become a more than adequate replacement for McMeekan in that right second row spot. It seems like McMeekan's another one of them players. I know he broke his thumb or something, didn't he? But he's another one of those players that they've not confirmed it out for the season, but it kind of feels like he is, isn't he?
It wouldn't surprise me if he pops up next week and just makes an appearance for the playoffs. But yeah, because that's a big loss, because McMeekan was playing so well before he got injured.
But Chan's in the stats every week, and he's popping up doing important stuff every week.
Right.
So
absolutely right. He has been very well.
But I think Catalans, maybe Tom Davies is another one who's come back into things.
Yes.
I don't think we take too much about Leeds out of this game. They started with young Jack Sinfield. He looked a little bit of a passenger, if I'm completely honest. That's not a criticism of him. It's just Leeds didn't really use him in any way. They were well beaten in the first half when he was on the field, and then when they brought Dwyer on, I think they took him off, didn't they, and put Leeming into the halves, and so he didn't really get much chance. But they were without a lot of their spine. They had Hardacre at fullback, didn't they? And Hardacre's not an attacking fullback like Myler is. They didn't have Caesar and Austin. They had Myler and Sinfield, didn't they, starting in the halves, and a bit of a mix and match situation for them. No Ash Hanley, he was at home waiting for the birth of his kid, so I assume though they'll be playing the home game, because it's not as hard to get back for the birth, is it, if something happens? Then I don't take too much out of this from Leeds, even though it's their first loss in 7, was it, or 8?
Yeah.
So,
but it is also, they haven't played. I mean, no disrespect meant to Leeds or indeed anyone they have played. They haven't played many big sides, have they, up until coming up against Catalan, and then they've sort of got ditched. So,
well, they beat Catalans, didn't they, in that game where Catalans kind of threw it away. They beat Huddersfield, who were a top team last week, but they haven't played Wigan or Saints for a while. But they did batter Wigan at their place a few weeks ago, about 6 or 7 weeks ago. So.
That's true, actually. Yes, I'd forgotten about that. That was, okay. Well, I mean, I'm not massively, not massively convinced by Leeds yet. I've not bought into so SLP hasn't completely bought their own Smith story yet.
I think we believe the Renaissance. It's not caught on, has it?
No, not for me.
But we don't believe that it's going to go all the way to grand final victory.
I don't think so. If we were still to have that rule about being able to pick who you were going to face in the semi-final, and it was, a choice of Leeds, Salford, or Catalan, I think I'd be choosing Leeds or Huddersfield rather than Catalan or Salford. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's have a look at the standings. So St Helens on 40 points, steal the league leaders' shield. Well done to them. It's their 10th, I believe, in the Super League.
9th, I think.
And their first since 2018. So 19, sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Wigan are confirmed in second on 36 points. Huddersfield and Catalans, they'll both host a playoff game in the quarterfinals, but we don't know how they'll finish. Huddersfield are on 33 points, Catalans are on 32, so it could be a change over there if Catalans could go and upset Wigan's perfect home record up to this point. Salford are up to 5th and practically confirm their place in the playoffs on 28 points. They've got a far superior points